Good afternoon. Welcome back. So it's now midday. It's now the afternoon. It's now the afternoon, and we're now joined by Roger Hobkinson. Roger, how are you?
I'm very good. Good afternoon to everyone. Good afternoon, Stu. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you very much. And like I say, we were just talking about boxing beforehand, and I caught that. So yeah, a bit of a late night, and I tried to start for the Kelbrook fight. Didn't happen, but unfortunately, he. Well, he's in Vegas, but I don't say it could be anywhere. It was just basically a sports hall, of course, of COVID. Anyway, that's enough about boxing. Thank you for joining us. Appreciate you sparing the time for that. So you may have seen Nick beforehand. We'll just go through very quick. Let's get a bit about you. What's your occupation?
I'm a management consulting. That means I advise on property, places and destinations, their development and delivery.
Superb. Okay. And where's that based? Is that based online, or where are you based?
I'm based in London SW19, Wimbledon. I returned from living in Dublin, Ireland just over a year ago. I work primarily from my home at the moment, like lots of people.
Yeah.
But I could be working across Britain, Ireland and around the world.
It's a bit of travelling.
Hopefully it will come back again, yes.
Of course. I say that and I forget. Or we're all working from home now, aren't we? So what was your first Wimbledon game?
The first Wimbledon game was actually the cup game at Leeds. I was taken, but then my dad and the rest of the family decided it was going to be too big for a little 5-year-old to go to. So my first real game was, I think it was a London Senior Cup game at Dulwich at Champion Hill against Staines in about 76.
Okay. So you sort of like, it's interesting, isn't it? Because I'm sort of like a bit envious of people that have done the journey twice, in terms of promotion through and in start, because I've loved the journey. So what was Dulwich Hamlet like at that point then? Because Dulwich was quite a big club going back then, weren't they? In London?
I was in awe of it because it was for a 6-7-year-old, it was just like a big old stadium. There was a big terrace at one end where I was just in awe of all these yellow and blue scarves and balloons and such like, and a big side terrace, which I think is where their sort of new main stand is and the sort of social centre they have there. Okay.
Who's your favourite all-time Wimbledon player? You've got a lot to choose from.
Glyn Hodges. I loved him when I was growing up because he was just a little bit different from the rest of the players. So I just think it's just brilliant. He's our manager now. And I seem to remember him scoring a sort of Marco van Basten, Glenn Hoddle, acute angled volley when we were roaring up the leagues. I think it might have been in the old League 3, Division 3. So Glyn Hodges back then.
Brilliant. I suppose being cheeky now, who's your current favourite Wimbledon player?
Yeah, that's a lot harder because it's one of the issue people have highlighted the last few years, just trying to get that rapport with some of the players and all that sort of stuff. I do like how the pig has progressed over the last few years. So let's say somebody obvious like that. Piggott.
Super. Okay. Well, so I've been looking through your manifesto on there. I'm interested. The start is really interesting for me. Home advantage supercharged. What does that mean?
Well, we've gone back home. It's been our dream for the best part of 30 years. But we're going back there now, and we've got the opportunity to really control this and take it to the next level. Things that we couldn't do at Kingsmeadow, and even going back to the Selhurst days, we just couldn't do stuff. But we can now. Let's take it to the next level. Let's really supercharge it, which has a number of implications for, as I'm sure we're going to discuss, the structure, the stadium, the surrounding area, community outreach and such like.
So I suppose supercharged, are you supercharged with it? Is it, Plough Lane, it's difficult during COVID, isn't it? But are you supercharged, energetic, that sort of really, if you were elected, what would you're looking forward to get going?
Ooh. There's a whole host of things. I think, first of all, as other people have alluded to in there or said directly in their manifestos on some of the hustings so far, that, this structure we've got of the Don's Trust, it's clearly served us well for the last 18 years or so, but it's absolutely creaking at the seams from what I've heard, from what I've observed. But, we're not a start-up anymore. We're an established football club. We're a reasonable sized business. we've got a major London property asset that the Dons Trust Board and others have delivered, the first phase. This puts us into a whole new league. So again, we've got to fundamentally change and add new skill sets, expertise, and that operational delivery thing. And just looking at some of the sort of most viewed comments on the Pro Boards thing, you know, the candidate skills, expertise and experience, I think was the #1 most viewed item. So perhaps that gives an indication of what fellow supporters think is most important now at this stage in the club.
Yeah. So in your manifesto, you go into that. So, you know, you say our club structure is creaking. I accept that. I totally concur with that. Interesting you say it served us very well as a non-league startup, but now we're an established League One club. We're a League One club now, aren't we? So what do we need to do? Because obviously post-COVID, money's tight. How do we increase our structure? You know, office staff is quite minimal at the moment, and we saw with debentures and stuff like that. How do we do that quickly, or do we set a mid to a long-term strategy?
Absolutely, we need a clear vision, then the strategy, and then the delivery and action plan. And I think, we need to survey supporters, Dons Trust members, to understand what's important to them. Some of the things are coming out during this process. So hopefully somebody will be scribing everything down and identifying some of the key messages, the key propositions of what's important to people. We need to get structure right. The thing I'm passionate about, to respond to part of the question, is this huge, amazing new stadium asset we've got, and the fundamental issues that if we want to do all the good things, that's going to cost money. So we've got to earn more money from our stadium in different uses that we can get in there, because it is only a quarter complete so far. Earning more money, pay down the debts, pay back the bonds, do the good outreach opportunities, and crucially provide a sustainable support for the playing budget, whether it's for senior teams or juniors and youngsters.
You're right. So we've got a lot of, that's what it's not built yet, but it's on its way to. But we've got, the biggest venue in terms of, I think Chelsea are the next one in Southwest London. How else, what ideas have you got in terms of how can we utilise that? I know Joe Palmer was saying about potentially e-gaming, which for me, getting a bit old now, I'd have loved that when I was younger. But how can we maximise that? Because it's all right having that space, but it's driving people to there, isn't it?
Yeah, that's one of the items around it. Well, back when I was in the mid sort of 2000s, when I was involved in the stadium location and early development strategy, we identified then a number of key uses that we should be incorporating within our sort of what I call the stadium precinct. One of them then was the whole idea of co-working. The surrounding area has then, this was 10, 12 years ago, has lots of freelancers, independent workers, such as myself, such as other people who the last 6-7 months, we working from home, but actually I'd love to be at a base where I can bump into people, chew the card, have discussions, have chats, progress my own business. And what a great way that would be for the club to develop more connections that could benefit the football club, whether it's core business or whether it's community development. So this co-working space opportunity is one. There's lots of other ones which, you could go through a list. Hotel, we know that. Co-living, pop-up, food and beverage, retail. And all that sort of thing, animating the internal street we've got. There's any number of options.
Brilliant. I love the co-working idea. I think that's a great one. And you're right. COVID has fast forward through a lot of things, haven't they? And networking, I really do like that. So in terms of, you say, returning home, we face two big issues. Interesting one. First one is I have a strong belief in fan ownership. Fan ownership, what does that mean to you? How passionate are you about that?
Well, absolutely. I think it's crucial. I was at the original meeting at Wimbledon Theatre. Well, one of the original meetings at Wimbledon Theatre. Signed up straight away. It's our flag. It's our brand. It's our ethos. There's all sorts of words you can use it. If we dissipate that, then we just lose so much. Whether it's credibility externally, so it's front and centre of what we are. And there's opportunities, I think, for us to sort of expand upon it. And it's the work of sort of Xavier and the guys at DLAG, what they've done this year is another way of starting to add more weight to our sort of fan ownership. So it's having the opportunity to get involved and having this support. I think Phil used the word earlier, sort of a family of people to call upon. And then they can bring in other members and friends and such like who might not have anything to do with Wimbledon.
Yeah. So again, within that, our stadium evolves, and we've talked about our hospitality and so forth like that. You use an interesting phrase called "sweat our stadium."
Our asset, yeah.
Yeah. So we looked at hospitality as one avenue. How else can we sweat that stadium? So Phil spoke about previously about match day experiences. That's one of the things that I'm quite passionate on, match day experience. What would you like to see, or what could you influence within a match day experience? What's a match day experience for you like, or what do you want?
Well, ongoing survey satisfaction of what people are actually experiencing needs to be done. Again, back in the day when I sort of organised a host of workshops with lots of other consultants to start brainstorming what a future AFC Wimbledon Stadium could be like, we've picked up upon what everyone liked at Kingsmeadow, the ability to mix, congregate, have the chats outside the main stand there. How could we do that in a really constrained space at Plough Lane? So there's that angle, which I think the architects have tried to factor in as much as possible. So it's that ability to meet and have that sort of shared experience together, sort of clearly in the stands, but then outside the stands as well. So that's one opportunity. The rest of it, that's probably something for Joe. He's a sports marketeer. He's going to have a whole track record of that. I look at stadiums in the US and some of the things they do, and it's having lots of different opportunities for people to connect, some brand points, whether it's food and beverage, whether it's speaking to Don's Trust members, meeting mascots, other people who you're involved in. Think of it like an expo, a conference, a trade show, for example.
Definitely. So in terms of the focus moving forward, a fresh executive empowered to do strategic planning. So obviously you've got experience in that with back in, when you look at the stadium and stuff like that. What do we need? Would that be strategic planning from the football club board within the club, or would that be a Don's Trust, or would it be a shared strategy?
Good question, Stu. Look, this is one of the big issues that I think needs to be tackled as soon as possible next year through the survey work and understanding what's really important, the big issues that are going to be out there. I think the fundamental issue is sort of oversight and guidance for the board, whatever board you are. But then we've got to set out this clear vision for the next 5 to 10 years, the strategy, the delivery and action plan. Then there might, one key thing from this, we've seen some really strong candidates come forward this time. We can't let that skill set and that energy just dissipate. So hopefully wherever anyone comes, one of the first things the Don's Trust will do will reach out to everyone and sort of broker relationships and act like a really good central midfielder and make sure everyone's connected in for the future. If that doesn't happen, this whole process, I think, during November, it will be sadly sort of lost. So to answer your question, it's about oversight and guidance. And then if there's people such as myself, which I believe I have a valuable skill set, and others who can really perhaps do some of the work alongside the football club, then if that's seen as appropriate by the rest of the board and the membership, we should certainly do that.
Brilliant. So there's a few things, so great destination experience. So ensure our heritage and stories are captured throughout. So obviously you go back to the 75 area, do you know what I mean? Stuff like that. How do we do that? So trying to say, I like the idea of Bournemouth where they have their their pictures within the stands. I don't know if you've seen that. Yeah. How do we capture that? Because of course we're going to have new fans. So fan ownership is quite important. We have new fans coming in. How do we engage them with our history? Because that says a lot about us. Yeah.
So look, in my work, I've worked on a lot of museum visitor centre type projects. Currently I've got a live one which hopefully we're going for capital funding, the Museum of Music Ireland. But anyhow, the experience shows we know we've got loads of stories, they're important to us, that's great, so we need to celebrate them for ourselves, but we actually need to be able to, what do these stories mean for the rest of society who might not be Wimbledon fans. So how can we tap into their psyche? To do that, we're going to need a really good, what you call interpretive planner or storyteller, who can bring these stories together and help elevate them and really add the sizzle to them. You mentioned Bournemouth, Wembley. I quite like how they have all the pictures of the great day at Wembley, including our days there, which is fabulous. There's a museum group. So there's one element. You might have the classic artifacts and memorabilia. People like looking at that. But in this day and age, speaking to a colleague who's been involved in the new Guggenheim and Louvre museums in Abu Dhabi and the V&A in Dundee, it's more about the audio visual, that storytelling, less about the artifacts. So throughout our stadium, equally throughout what I call our stadium precinct and stadium districts, we need to be thinking about how we do that. We've got one already. It's the sort of memorial at the junction of Plough Lane and Dunsford Road. I used to crawl in through back in the day.
I think I did, to be fair, as well, when I could. Okay, so a few final question. What to you makes a good Don's Trust chair? There's something I sort of described earlier on. It's that central midfielder, good central midfielder. Some days you might need to be a Vinnie Jones. Other days you might need to be perhaps a little bit more of a Glenn Hodges. No Liam Trossers though. Not saying nothing.
You've got to be that connection person. You've got to have a little bit of gravitas, and you've got to have that ability to get on with people, but then have that hardness and sharpness to stand up when there's a point that you feel passionate about. But so drawing the people together as well and taking people on a clear direction and helping establish that direction.
Superb. Is that something, that role, would that be something that would interest you if you were successful?
In the future, maybe, but at the moment, I think I can add most value, or I know I can add most value by getting involved on the board and really helping in terms of the strategic refresh of the Don's Trust, and then the huge opportunity and fundamental amount of cash and community connections we can do by supercharging our stadium asset.
Brilliant. And final question, the most important one. I guess you like a cup of tea? I've
had one already today. Yeah.
Superb. So when you done that cup of tea this morning, did you put the bag first or the milk first in?
You know what? Earlier this year, I decided sometimes the old things are best, and I went out and got a teapot and I put it in a teapot, and I warmed the teapot first, and then you put the tea bag in, then you put the boiling water, then let it brew for maybe 2 or 3 minutes. And then pour it into, and then add the milk on top.
Good answer. Do you know what? The other day I was thinking about a strainer. Like the old milk, the tea bag strainers and stuff like that. The old-fashioned side of it. I was thinking, you've got to brew it properly. Good answer. I like that. Okay, look, appreciate your time. We've got some questions quickly before we go. George, I will hand over to you.
Yeah, we've got loads of questions coming in. We'll get through them as quickly as we can. Tony Shepherd wants to know if you have ever been involved as a Don's Trust volunteer and what capacity that was in.
Only when we started up on the stadium working group from 2003 until I moved to Ireland in 2009. And then I carried on working with Eric and Andrew Williams for a few years. But obviously I was a little bit distant then, and I had to worry about things over in Ireland. And it was a little bit tough to sort of let go at the time. But I knew there was a really able team Eric was assembling. So I had to step back. Which was the right thing to do.
Lee Willett wants to know, in terms of the supercharging, can you please give 3 things or areas which have to drive that forward? And in terms of making a 365 use of the stadium, what do you think the club needs to do to underpin this?
We've got, number one, we've got to do our fundamental feasibility of the long list of potential uses in there. Yeah. So what are the best opportunities? Is it the co-working? Could part of the stadium be used as a sort of last mile depot for Amazon and other online retailers and such like? We need to set out, and I did a blog on my little micro site last night, communityclubbuilding.com, about a place, destination brand that we need to establish to help set the direction of our stadium and the wider area is going to go in the coming years. We need to sort of refresh it. Change will happen there. We're the catalysts for it, along with Galliard. Other people are going to see it differently. Other landowners, other occupiers, the residential market we have around it. So we need to create a compelling consumer-facing proposition to attract more people. I did, again, on my little blog, we have potentially over 700,000 people just across the road going into the retail park. What can we do that's going to tap into their needs and wants and their purses and pockets and wallets?
Okay, and final question because of the time. Do you believe that a majority of fans believe in the fan ownership model? And if so, would you be happy enshrining the fan ownership model permanently, and why?
Yes, yes, and yes, because as I said earlier, it's who we are. It's part of our ethos. We cannot let that go.
Thank you. That's all we've got time for, I'm afraid.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Roger. Thank you very much.